And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Janice, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm great. How about yourself?
That's good. I'm trying. I have an 06 Ford Freestar van.
Sorry about
and I took it in to get worked on, and when I got it back, the battery light was on. So he said, let me check it, and he got a code for a generator field terminal circuit low. But he checked it, and he said the alternator's fine and the battery's fine. So I took it. He said you could probably drive it like that. I took it, and I thought, well, I'll check an alternator shop. So I checked it with an alternator shop, and he said, it's your battery. It needs to be replaced. So the battery's still under warranty. So I went up to Ford, and they checked it, and they said the battery's fine, and the alternator's fine. So I don't know what to do.
Gosh, sounds like here's what we do, and so I can only share with you what we do. With the car, of course, all the parts on the car running, as it should be. I mean, there are a lot of, maybe not you, but there are car tinkerers that will, if they've got an alternator problem or a battery, they go get a battery and they put it in the car. I mean, even if it's not dead, they'll jump start. They go get a battery and put it in the car, which means no one's tested the electrical circuits, or they'll go get an alternator and put an alternator in the car next, and nobody's tested the circuits with everything in place. So the car needs to really be retested with everything in place. And here's what needs to be done first. The battery cables, I'm sure they're okay. I'm sure they've been off, but they need to be rechecked. The battery cables, because everything literally starts at the battery. No pun intended, but that's the electrical flow. So that's the first thing that needs to be done. And Janice, here's the real challenge. If an alternator or a parasitic draw, and a parasitic draw would be a cell phone that's left in, or some other device, or some draw in the car. Maybe there's one of the electrical components of the car that is still on, and it doesn't mean that there's a light on that you see, but there's a parasitic draw.
I understand.
Okay, good. All right, fine. Then the first thing that needs to be done is the battery needs to be fully charged, and it will take 3 to 4 hours at 10 amps to properly charge that battery, 10 to 15 amps, because the battery has to get it stay. It's like antibiotics. A doctor gives you 10 days. So you take the antibiotics for 2 or 3 days, you feel better, and you put the rest on the shelf. That is not proper, and you know that. But in a battery, you can charge a battery for 5 minutes, and it'll start the car. And you say, "Oh, I'm okay now." You have to restore the health of the battery and the storage of the battery and the stability of the battery, and that takes 3 to 4 hours at 10 to 15 amps. And you don't want to force it at higher amperage, but just because that shortens the life of the battery, or it could shorten the life of the battery. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to make sure that the battery has been charged no less than 3 hours with a 10 amp charger, and that's like a trickle charger, and a little more than a trickle, but 10 amps. Okay, and now we've got a healthy battery. And then I want a shop to perform what we call an AVI, alternator voltage regulator test, and we just named it that, but that's what the industry calls it. And that test, and then if the car passes that test, I want someone to check for a parasitic draw, and that's where the ASE certified technician comes in, because you're going to have someone. And you said the Ford dealer should definitely be able to check this car out for you. But first,
well, I was going to say he said I could take it into the shop and have them check it they would charge $100 to check it. And I thought, well, the guy was going to put a battery in for $100. I could get a new battery.
But you still have the problem.
Go ahead and put a new battery in it.
Yes, ma'am, but you still have the problem.
Well, I was going to say, see if that was going to fix the problem in the battery.
Well, I'm sorry. I had just assumed that you'd ought to replace the battery.
No, the battery. No, because Ford told me no, it wasn't the battery. He said it was a little low, but it's not the battery.
Well, if it's a little low, it's not right. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like, I mean, you go to a doctor and you say, I got chest pains. Well, let's do open heart surgery. Wait. Can we do stress tests first? Maybe I can lose a few pounds. Maybe I can,
Oh,
maybe,
I understand.
I
understand.
Well,
I just
okay.
didn't know all this to argue with him about it.
Yeah,
or anything,
well, you
so.
shouldn't have to, Janice. You shouldn't. I'm glad you called me. And here's a point there in South Carolina. Get that battery charged 100%. And if the battery's 4 years old, replace it.
It's 3, yeah, it's 3, yeah.
Well, you're walking that fine line there, and so a battery is a good place to start. And just go to O'Reilly Auto Parts and buy a battery. And I would suggest that you replace the battery that's in your car with the largest battery that will fit the actual box itself, because you get a bigger bang for the buck. So that's what I recommend you do. Hey, thanks for calling. I appreciate you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.